Hello students, how are you all? Hope you are fine. So today we are going to begin with our next topic, Unit 3, 3.4, The Brook. Kindly remove your textbook, page number 68. Now the poem The Brook is written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Now in this poem, the poet traces the journey of a brook from its origin to its mouth. Though the poem is very simple, but the poem conveys a very deep message in a very subtle manner. The refrain in the poem tells us that the nature is eternal, whereas we are ephemeral. We may come and we may go, but the nature stays forever. That is, it is eternal. Now, the narrator of the poem, The Brook, takes us along its course, and the narrator, it begins from the places often visited by coot and horn, and so he moves ahead with the poem and he experiences and shares the experiences. So, about the poem, the brook is a metaphor of human life in the form of river. As you all know, the metaphor is comparison. So, the brook is compared with the life of us, that is a human being. The poet has realistically drawn a parallelism between the journey of the brook with the life of a man. The two things are compared parallelly, that is the journey of a brook and even the journey of a life of a man. He significantly relates the brook to the human life, to the sad reflection that the man's life is impermanent as compared with the relative permanence of the river. Today we are there, tomorrow we don't know, but the river will go on, it will flow on forever and ever. And as in our life we have ups and downs, similarly the brook has to pass through the various places, and he also gets various experiences as in general the human being experience. So now coming to the poem The Brook. Now in this poem, the places visited by the poet and the experience. Now here, though the poet he doesn't on his own visit, but he's telling that the brook, when he goes on visiting, what experiences he gets. So here the narrator of the poem, The Brook, takes us along its course. It narrates that it begins from the places often visited by coot and horn. It makes noise while coming down the valley. The sunlight makes the brook's water sparkle as it flows among the fern. It passes through several villages and a number of bridges. Finally, it passes by Philip's farm and joins the overflowing river. It creates a lot of bubbles and noise while swirling around an obstacle. The brook says that it makes a lot of turns and etches out the path full of curves. Passing by many ups and downs, the brook carries blossoms on its way. A lot of fishes accompany it, moving through the different curves. The brook clashes and creates silvery water break. At the base of the brook, there are golden colored stones. The reflection of the sunlight on the moving waters of the brook seems as if the sunbeam is dancing. At night, under the moon and the stars, it murmurs through the thorny bushes, avoiding the obstacles. It finally flows into the river. So this is what the brook speaks about himself and his own experiences. So let us move ahead with the poem stanza by stanza. I came from haunts of coot and horn. I make a sudden sally and sparkle out among the fern to bicker down a valley. By 30 hills I hurry down or slip between the ridges. By 20 throps a little town and half a hundred bridges, till last by Philip's Farm I flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on for ever. Now, in these three stanzas, the poet is telling us various experience of the brook. Now, here it says that is the brook only narrates himself. It says that it comes from the places where the birds such as the coots and the herons are often found. Then it makes a sudden quick journey to shine brightly among the ferns or to run noisily down the valley. In the second stanza, it hurries down 30 hills or slips between the ridges next to 20 small villages, a little town and more than 50 bridges. At last it flows by the Philip's Farm to join the already full river. The brook says that men may come and men may go, but it flows on forever. Now, apart from the explanation, now coming to the meanings. Now, haunt is the places where one visits often or where one spends a lot of time. Coot and horn, they are the water birds. And sally means that when you make a quick journey. Bicker means when you run noisily. And ridges means a long, narrow mountain range. And the tops, it is the old English version for a village. Brimming is the overflowing. Here it is overflowing of water. So here we find that not only here some new words are also there, and plus what kind of the poetic devices, that is the figures of the speech, is being used by the poet. In the first line, if you see, I come from the haunts of coot and horn, H and H is repeated, sound is repeated of H. So here it is alliteration. In the second line, sudden and sally, again it is alliteration. Coming to bicker down a valley, here it is personification given the quality of a human being, that is running noisily, as if when a human runs by making noise. Similarly, the valley, the brook is running by making noise. So it is personification. Now coming to the second stanza, by 30 hills I hurry down. It is inversion. The words are not arranged properly. Now coming to the next one, by 20 thops a little town and half a hundred bridges. These lines are hyperbole. They are over exaggerated because the poet, that is the brook, is telling that it is passing more than 50 bridges, which is really an over exaggerated statement. So this is the hyperbole. That is, by 20 throps a little town and half a hundred bridges. It is hyperbole. Now coming to the third stanza, till last by Philip Farms I flow. F, sound of F is repeated, so it is alliteration. For men may come and men may go. Now in this line, it is antithesis because two opposites are there in a single line. So come and go, antithesis. Now coming to the next stanza. This is a picture of a brook. I chatter over stony ways in little sharps and trebles. I bubble into eddying bays. I babble on pebbles. With many a curve my banks I fret, by many a field and fallow, and many a fairy foreland set with willow seed and mallow. I chatter, chatter as I flow to join the brimming river, for men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So now in the fourth stanza, the poet, that is not the poet, here the brook. Narrator is the brook, so the brook is telling that it makes a chattering musical noise as it travels over the stony paths. It travels in the bubbles, in fast-moving circles of water near bays, or it noisily travels over the pebbles. In the next stanza, it travels with many curves, grumbling by the side of many fields or uncultivated patches of land. It passes by many fairy forelands that have willow weeds or mallow. Next stanza, it chatters at its flows to join the already full river. The brook says that men may come and men may go, but it flows on forever. Now in this stanza, you'll find that the sharps and the trebles, they are the musical sound made by the brook. And eddying means when they are moving in a circular way. Babble is making the murmuring sound when the water is flowing over the stones. And fret is wearing out of something is known as a fret. Fallow is the uncultivated land. And fairy foreland, a scenic place that looks like an entrance to the fairyland. So all the places the brook is visiting. And the willow weed is a type of the plant, and the mallow is a plant with the purple flowers. So, and coming to the poetic device, that is the figures of speech. Now, when the brook is telling, I chatter over the stony ways, personification, given the quality of the human being, that is as if I am chattering. So here it is the brook who is chattering. Then coming to the next one, with many a curve my banks I fret. Again, this is inversion. The words are not in the proper order. With willow, weed and mallow, it is alliteration. That is willow with W, willow again W, then weed again W. So it is alliteration. Then coming to the next stanza, I chatter, chatter, it is repetition because the word chatter is being repeated twice. Now this is you can see is grayling is what and what is a lusty trout. Just have a look on it. Now coming to the next stanza, I wind about and in and out, with here a blossom sailing, and here and there a lusty trout, and here and there a grayling, and here and there a foamy flake upon me as I travel, with many a silvery water break above the golden gravel, and draw them all along and flow to join the brimming river, for men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. Now in this stanza, the brook is telling that it winds in and out while a few blossoms sails on it. Here and there you will find a lusty trout or grayling in the waters of brook. Here and there you will find a foamy flake upon the brook as it travels, or many a silvery water break above the golden gravel. It draws them all along as it flows to join the already full river. The brook says that the men may come and men may go, but it flows forever. So here, lusty is the healthy and the strong, and the front is a freshwater fish. Flake is a small flat piece of something you can call it. And water break is a place in the brook where the surface of the water is broken by the irregularities on the bottom because the water is continuously flowing there. Grayling, a freshwater fish with a long fin. And the gravel, a pounded stones. Now coming to the next stanza, I slip, I gloom, I glance. Among my skimming swallows, I make a netted sunbeam dance against my sandy shallows. I murmur under the moon and stars, I brambly wilderness, linger by my shiny bars. I loiter round my crevices, and out again I curve and flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. Now, in this stanza, the poet is telling that is the brook, the narrator himself. Again and again, I am repeating here the narrator is brook only. The brook slips and slides and moves in dark places or looks about here and there. As swallows skim on its surface, it makes patterns that look like nets as the sunbeams dance against the shallow sands below it. It whispers softly under the moon and the stars and the wildness thick with the brambles. It moves slowly by the bars full of shiningness or round it presses. Then again it curves and flows to join the already full river. The brook says that men may come and men may go, but it flows on forever. So here, skimming swallows means swallows that touch the brook lightly and quickly as they fly over. Shallows, that is an area of the brook where the water is not very deep. Brambly, it is full of quickly or prickly, you can call it growing shrubs. Wilderness is an uncultivated region where any type of the weeds are grown. Shiningly, it is full of small rounded pebbles, or you can call it stones, and bars are the various obstacles or the barriers, and crevices are the small plants being grown. Now coming to your figures of speech. Again I narrator, that is the brook is telling, I slip, I slide, I gloom, I glance. So again it is personification. I make the netted sunbeam dance. Again it is personification, as if the brook is dancing. I murmur under the moon and the stars. Again here personification is being used. I linger by my shiningly bars. I loiter round my crevices. So here again it is personification. Wherever they had used the word I, that is the brook. So here it is personification. And even when they said I slip and slide, it is also alliteration. And gloom and glance, as the G is been repeated, sound is repeated, so it is again alliteration. Then coming to your last stanza, and out again I curve and flow. Again the brook is telling about himself. For men may come and men may go. It is antithesis. but I go on forever. It is the brook, it is talking about himself. So I hope you all have understood the poem very well. Now here the meanings are being given. This also meanings are being given. You can note them. Now literally devices acts as we had already explained earlier. Um, Now here one more thing, that here is given the rhyming words are being specified. Okay, ways, trebles, pebbles, uh, out, trout, sailing, grayling, shallow stars, shallows, then stars, bars, wilderness cresses. Now here we are introduced to the next uh, one more kind of the figures of speech, that is the onomatopoeia. We had already completed. Just going through. Now chatter and the murmur, when the sound is being made, it is onomatopoeia. So here, wherever the words are used, chatter or murmur, especially in the second last stanza, they have used the word I murmur under the moon and stars. So here it is onomatopoeia. And in the fourth stanza, I chatter over the stony ways. It is personification as well as it is onomatopoeia. And these are the examples of the alliteration we had already been discussed. Now coming to a conclusion, or the essence of this poem. Now the poet has realistically drawn a parallelism between the journey of the brook with the life of a man. Here the man doesn't mean that only it is about the man, not of the woman, but in general he has used the word, it is for the common human. The poet says, as in the childhood a child is very agile, energetic and lively, like that the brook in the beginning stage of the life is very powerful, enhancing, and it keeps on flowing with a great rush and enthusiasm throughout his life. It falls from the great heights and meanders around the wavy path, and when it approaches on a plain, it becomes very slow and continues to flow eternally. Like the brook, a man towards the end of the life, that is human, towards the life, becomes slow in his moves and ultimately meets the haunts of the death, and the brook also emerges with a final destination, but it never ends to flow. So I hope you all have understood the poem very well, and the message conveyed by the poet Alfred Lord Tennyson is also very clear to you all. If you all like my video, kindly like it and subscribe it. Thank you children. God bless you all.